Why does the cinematic establishment keep force-feeding us the same sanitized narratives of Cold War heroism, while a graveyard of genuinely thrilling combat cinema rots in obscurity? We are not talking about your grandfather's nostalgic war stories. We are talking about submarine mutinies, and accidental nuclear launches, and spies who lose their souls in the frozen tundra. These 18 films do not politely ask for your attention. They seize it with brutal efficiency and refuse to let go. Number 18, Firefox, 1982. What happens when Clint Eastwood decides to steal a Soviet fighter jet with his steely glare alone? Firefox answers that question with a thunderous roar of jet engines and Cold War paranoia. The year is 1982, and the Soviet Union has developed a prototype fighter plane codenamed Firefox that can reach Mach 6 and remain invisible to radar. Its weapons are controlled by thought. America cannot allow this technological monstrosity to exist. Enter Mitchell Gant, a burnt-out former Vietnam pilot who must infiltrate a secret Soviet base and fly the unstoppable machine back to freedom. Eastwood directs himself with his signature minimalist intensity, turning every silent stare into a tactical weapon. The aerial sequences remain breathtaking, even by modern standards, with dogfights that rival anything in Top Gun. But the film's true genius lies in its depiction of Soviet dissidents and the desperate gamble of espionage. Eastwood's character navigates a web of informants and double crosses where trust is a luxury he cannot afford. Critics dismissed it as a simple action vehicle, but they missed the profound anxiety simmering beneath the surface. This is a film about envy and theft, and the terrifying realization that the enemy might have just built a better mousetrap. The final confrontation in the skies is pure adrenaline poetry. Firefox does not preach, it detonates. Number 17. War Games, 1983. Can a teenage hacker with a lust for video games accidentally trigger World War III? War Games suggests that the answer is a terrifying yes, and it does so with a prescient chill that cuts deeper today than it did in 1983. Matthew Broderick plays David Lightman, a high school prodigy who cracks the NORAD supercomputer, thinking he has found a new game company. Instead, he activates a war simulation called Global Thermonuclear War that nearly convinces the Pentagon to launch a full-scale attack on the Soviet Union. The film functions as a brilliant educational tool, dressed in neon-soaked 80s entertainment. It explains the fragility of the nuclear deterrent in terms that any teenager could understand. The tension ratchets up as David races to prove that the attack is a simulation before the generals commit to Armageddon. Ally Sheedy provides grounded support as his girlfriend, but the real star is the WAP computer itself, a faceless behemoth that learns the ultimate lesson in futility. War Games captured the anxiety of a generation raised under the shadow of mutually assured destruction. It also predicted the rise of cyber warfare and the dangerous intersection of technology and military protocol. The film's anti-war message resonates with crushing clarity in the final moments when the machine concludes that the only winning move is not to play. This is not a childish fantasy. It is a warning wrapped in a thriller. Number 16. Crimson Tide, 1995. What happens when the chain of command snaps under the crushing weight of nuclear responsibility? Tony Scott's Crimson Tide plunges into that abyss with a claustrophobic intensity that has never been surpassed. The USS Alabama receives an incomplete order to launch its nuclear missiles at a Russian rebel stronghold. Captain Frank Ramsey, played by a volcanic Gene Hackman, interprets the order as a green light. Lieutenant Commander Ron Hunter, portrayed by a fiercely cerebral Denzel Washington, demands confirmation. The resulting standoff escalates into a full-blown mutiny on a submarine trapped beneath the ocean. This is not a simple good versus evil narrative. Both men are patriots. Both believe they are saving their country. Hackman's Ramsey operates on instinct and faith in the old military doctrines. Washington's Hunter relies on logic and the rule of law. Their ideological clash mirrors the broader philosophical debate that haunted the entire Cold War. Scott directs with frenetic energy, using rapid cuts and shadowy lighting to heighten the suffocating panic. The dialogue crackles, with intellectual weight and verbal sparring that elevates the film far above standard action fare. The supporting cast adds layers of moral ambiguity. Crimson Tide asks a question that has no easy answer. When do you obey orders and when do you question them? The final torpedo duel is a masterclass in suspense. This film never wavers in its intensity. Number 15. 13 Days, 2000. Could a handful of men in a smoke-filled room really have saved humanity from extinction? 13 Days answers that question with a sweaty palm and a racing heart. Kevin Costner delivers a career-best performance as Kenneth O'Donnell, the aide to President John F. Kennedy, during the harrowing Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. The film unfolds across 13 claustrophobic days, as Kennedy, played with eerie precision by Bruce Greenwood, navigates a military leadership desperate for airstrikes, and a Soviet Union equally eager to preserve its reputation. This is not a film about battleships or paratroopers. It is a film about words and silences, and the unbearable weight of a single misinterpreted signal. Director Roger Donaldson traps the audience inside the White House with no escape from the escalating dread. The cinematography uses grainy textures and tight framing to evoke the documentary realism of the era. Costner's O'Donnell serves as the audience surrogate, a man torn between loyalty to his president and his own gnawing fear. The film brilliantly dramatizes the internal military dissent that nearly pushed the world to the brink. Every negotiation feels like a tightrope walk over a nuclear volcano. 13 Days is historically rigorous and emotionally devastating. It reminds us that the Cold War was not won by generals, but by exhausted men who understood that hesitation was not cowardice. It was survival. Number 14. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, 2011. What does a spy look like when he is not firing a gun or decoding a cipher, but simply sitting in a drab office, sipping tea with a haunted expression? Gary Oldman's George Smiley is the answer in this labyrinthine masterpiece of Cold War paranoia. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy burrows deep into the tainted heart of British intelligence, where a Soviet mole has infiltrated the highest ranks of the circus. Smiley is dragged out of forced retirement to unmask the traitor among 4 senior officers. The film refuses to spoon-feed its audience. Every glance carries a hidden accusation. Every conversation is a chess move in a game where the stakes are global domination. Oldman delivers a performance of staggering interiority, conveying oceans of pain and suspicion with the faintest twitch of his spectacles. The ensemble cast creates a tapestry of betrayal and fated loyalty. Director Tomas Alfredson suffuses the frame with a melancholic gloom that mirrors the moral decay of the espionage world. This is not a film about heroism, it is about exhaustion and the slow poison of paranoia. The screenplay, adapted from John le Carré's dense novel, respects the audience's intelligence, demanding total engagement. The final revelation is shattering, not because it is flashy, but because it is devastatingly human. Tinker Tailor understands that the Cold War was not won with missiles, it was won with secrets, and the deepest secret was the erosion of the soul. Number 13. K-19, The Widowmaker, 2002. Can a nuclear reactor on a malfunctioning submarine turn its crew into reluctant martyrs for a cause they barely understand? Kathryn Bigelow's K-19, The Widowmaker, answers with a harrowing true story that will leave you breathless and broken. Harrison Ford stars as Captain Alexei Vostrikov, the stern commander of the Soviet Union's first nuclear ballistic submarine. Liam Neeson plays his equally stubborn executive officer, Mikhail Polenin. Their relationship is a powder keg of clashing egos and operational philosophies. When the reactor cooling system fails during a disastrous sea trial, the crew faces a certain radiation death, unless they can repair the core with their bare hands. Bigelow directs with unflinching realism, capturing the claustrophobic terror inside the metal hull. The film does not glorify the Soviet system. It humanizes the desperate men trapped within it. Ford's Vostrikov is a martinet who must learn that leadership is not about issuing orders, but about sharing sacrifice. The scene where sailors volunteer to enter the radioactive chamber is one of the most gut-wrenching acts of heroism ever captured on film. Bigelow worked with surviving crew members to ensure authenticity, and their approval speaks volumes. K-19 is not a political polemic. It is a visceral study of duty and conscience under unimaginable duress. The underwater tension is almost unbearable. This movie deserves a place alongside the great submarine thrillers. It is a testament to the human capacity for endurance in the face of mechanical Armageddon. Number 12. Failsafe, 1964. What happens when a single mechanical glitch sends American bombers screaming toward Moscow with no way to recall them? Sidney Lumet's Failsafe presents the ultimate nightmare scenario, with a documentary-style urgency that has never been matched. Henry Fonda portrays the President of the United States, a man forced to make an impossible decision as he watches the countdown to catastrophe tick away. A technical error has transmitted a false order to a squadron of nuclear-armed bombers. They are now past the point of no return. The Soviet premier refuses to believe it is an accident. Lumet traps the audience in a war room with terrified advisors and exhausted generals as they scramble to avert oblivion. The film is almost unbearably tense because it relies on dialogue and logic rather than explosions. Fonda's president is a portrait of stoic despair, a leader who must consider sacrificing millions to prove his sincerity. The parallel release with Dr. Strangelove obscured its brilliance because audiences craved satire over stark reality. But Failsafe is the more terrifying film because it does not laugh at the absurdity. It stares into the abyss with unblinking eyes. The ending is an emotional gut punch that redefines tragic sacrifice. This is the Cold War, stripped of its glamour and reduced to its rawest primal terror. Lumet's direction is economical and devastating. Failsafe is a time capsule that still feels distressingly contemporary. It is a masterpiece of escalating dread. Number 11. The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, 1965. Can a spy truly retire from the game, or does the game simply consume him from the inside out? Richard Burton delivers the definitive performance of his career in this bleak existential thriller that redefined the spy genre. Alec Leamas is a weary British agent who agrees to one final mission. He must pose as a defector and infiltrate East German intelligence. The plan is convoluted. The rules are non-existent. Burton's world-weary eyes tell a story of moral exhaustion that no script could capture. The film, based on John le Carré's revolutionary novel, strips away the James Bond fantasy and replaces it with grimy back alleys and fluorescent interrogation rooms. Claire Bloom provides a tragic counterpoint as Leamas's love interest, a woman caught in the crossfire of ideological warfare. Director Martin Ritt employs stark black-and-white cinematography that mirrors the absolutism of the era. There is no heroism here, only survival and the slow decay of principles. The plot twists with serpentine cruelty, leading to a finale that is devastatingly cynical. Lee Nalmus learns that his superiors are just as ruthless as the enemy. The film argues that the Cold War corrupted everyone who participated in it. Burton's raw, magnetic presence elevates every scene, turning a spy thriller into a meditation on loyalty and betrayal. This is the anti-Bond movie, and it is infinitely more powerful for its refusal to offer comfort. The Spy Who Came In From the Cold is a cold shower of cinematic truth. Number 10. 7 Days in May, 1964. Could a popular general overthrow the President of the United States because he disagrees with a nuclear treaty? John Frankenheimer's 7 Days in May answers that question with a chilling plausibility that feels disturbingly relevant today. Burt Lancaster plays General James Scott, a charismatic military leader who views President Jordan Lyman's disarmament pact with the Soviets as an act of treason. He plots a coup to seize control of the government. Kirk Douglas stars as Colonel Jiggs Casey, the aide who discovers the conspiracy and races against time to expose it. Frederick March portrays Lyman, a frail but determined commander-in-chief who must outmaneuver his own military machine. The screenplay, co-written by Rod Serling, crackles with political dialogue that dissects the tension between civilian control and military ambition. Frankenheimer directs with a newsreel immediacy that lends credibility to the improbable premise. The film is a thriller, but it is also a profound constitutional drama. It asks whether a president has the moral authority to seek peace when the military establishment demands war. Lancaster Scott is not a monster. He is a patriot convinced of his own righteousness. That is what makes him so terrifying. The final confrontation between the president and the general is a verbal duel of staggering intensity. 7 Days in May is a forgotten classic that deserves rediscovery as a parable of democratic resilience. It is lean taut and utterly essential. Number 9. No Way Out, 1987. What happens when a Russian spy accidentally becomes the lead investigator in his own murder case? Roger Donaldson's No Way Out serves up that deliciously twisted premise with a glossy 80s thriller sheen that hides a surprisingly sophisticated Cold War commentary. Kevin Costner plays Navy Lieutenant Tom Farrell, a man with a secret past and a dangerous affair with Susan Atwell, the mistress of his commanding officer. Defense Secretary David Bryce, played with menacing volatility by Gene Hackman. When Susan is murdered, Farrell is assigned to lead the investigation, only to realize that every clue points directly back to him. The script delivers a shocking twist that reframes the entire narrative. Farrell is not just a lovesick officer. He is a Soviet mole sent to extract intelligence from Bryce's inner circle. The film's cat-and-mouse dynamic is electrifying. Costner exudes the right combination of charm and desperation, while Hackman chews scenery with gleeful malevolence. The famous limousine love scene with Sean Young became iconic, but the film's true power lies in its depiction of the absurd lengths to which intelligence agencies would go to protect their assets. The final revelation is a gut punch that recontextualizes every interaction. No Way Out is not a standard Cold War thriller. It is a cynical deconstruction of loyalty and identity. The frantic chase through a military complex ratchets the suspense to unbearable levels. This film is a slick, sharp reminder that in the Cold War, everyone was playing multiple angles. Number 8. Ice Station Zebra, 1968. Can a nuclear submarine navigate the frozen hell of the Arctic to recover a crashed Soviet spy satellite and survive the treacherous human elements on board? John Sturges's Ice Station Zebra answers that question with an epic, sprawling adventure that embraces its 148-minute runtime with unapologetic grandeur. Rock Hudson stars as Commander James Faraday, the stoic captain tasked with a mission that becomes progressively more dangerous with every nautical mile. The satellite contains photographs of American military installations, and its retrieval could tip the balance of power. Ernest Borgnine delivers a scene-stealing performance as the gruff Soviet defector who may or may not be trustworthy. Patrick McGoohan adds an air of mysterious authority as a British intelligence officer with hidden agendas. The film adapts Alistair MacLean's novel with a fidelity that preserves the claustrophobic tension and icy dread. Sturges, who is better known for westerns, injects the submarine sequences with the same rugged masculinity that defined his cowboy epics. The underwater battle sequences are spectacular for their era. The final action set piece on the frozen Arctic landscape is a white-knuckle shootout that pits man against man and man against nature. Ice Station Zebra is a product of the late 60s epic cinema boom, and it does not apologize for its excesses. Number 7. Charlie Wilson's War, 2007. Did a hard-partying Texas congressman and a flamboyant socialite really orchestrate the Soviet Union's defeat in Afghanistan? Mike Nichols' Charlie Wilson's War presents that improbably true story with a wry comedic sensibility that belies its devastating geopolitical consequences. Tom Hanks plays Wilson, a womanizing alcoholic legislator who discovers an overlooked budget for covert operations. He teams with conservative activist Joanne Herring, played with fierce determination by Julia Roberts, and rogue CIA agent Gust Avrakotos, portrayed by a brilliantly profane Philip Seymour Hoffman. Together they funnel billions of dollars to the Afghan Mujahideen, allowing them to bleed the Soviet Red Army dry. Aaron Sorkin's razor-sharp screenplay delivers rapid-fire dialogue that illuminates the absurdity of international diplomacy. Hoffman earned an Oscar nomination for his cynical scene-stealing performance. The film does not shy away from the irony that Wilson's victory ultimately sowed the seeds for future chaos, including the rise of the Taliban and Osama bin Laden. The final scene encapsulates this tragic foresight with haunting clarity. Charlie Wilson's War is a comedy that curdles into tragedy. It exposes the short-sightedness of American foreign policy and the law of unintended consequences. Nichols directs with a light touch that makes the heavy subject matter digestible. The period detail is impeccable. This film deserves more recognition as a sharp-witted cautionary tale about the hubris of winning at any cost. Number 6. Spies Like Us, 1985. Can two bumbling bureaucratic misfits accidentally save the world from nuclear annihilation while making you laugh until your sides hurt? John Landis's Spies Like Us takes that premise and runs with it at breakneck comedic speed. Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd play Emmett Fitzhume and Austin Milbarge, a pair of inept government employees who are chosen as decoy spies. Their real purpose is to distract Soviet forces, while a genuine team executes a high-stakes mission. The joke is that these two are so hopelessly incompetent that they become effective through sheer chaotic luck. The film is a love letter to the spy genre and a ruthless parody of Cold War paranoia. Chase delivers his signature smug physical comedy, while Aykroyd provides the manic intellectual energy. The two share an undeniable chemistry. Landis packs the film with pop culture references and a surprisingly catchy Paul McCartney theme song that plays over the end credits. The sight gags are relentless. The nuclear standoff that concludes the film is both hilarious and oddly tense. Spies Like Us does not pretend to be profound. It is pure escapist silliness that uses the Cold War as a backdrop for slapstick mayhem. But beneath the jokes lies a genuine affection for the espionage genre. Number 5. The Falcon and the Snowman, 1985. What drives a privileged young man with a CIA job to sell his country's secrets to the Soviet Union for pocket change and a twisted sense of justice? John Schlesinger's The Falcon and the Snowman explores that dark question with unflinching psychological depth. Timothy Hutton plays Christopher Boyce, a disillusioned intelligence analyst who becomes repulsed by the agency's covert operations. He teams with his drug-addicted friend Dalton Lee, portrayed with manic energy by Sean Penn, to sell classified documents to the Russians. Boyce believes he is exposing American hypocrisy. Lee just wants the money. Their partnership is a ticking time bomb of incompetence and paranoia. Schlesinger directs with a detached observational style that allows the tragedy to unfold organically. Hutton's reserved performance contrasts sharply with Penn's volatile outbursts, creating a fascinating dynamic. The film dramatizes the moral confusion of the era, where protest against the government blurred into outright treason. The true story elements add a layer of grim fascination. Boyce's justification for his betrayal is never fully validated, but it is always understood. The surveillance sequences are tense. The eventual downfall is inevitable and heartbreaking. The Falcon and the Snowman is a character study disguised as a spy thriller. This is a forgotten gem of 80s cinema that deserves a second look for its nuanced portrayal of betrayal. Number 4. The Courier, 2020. Can a mild-mannered British businessman with no espionage training outwit the entire KGB apparatus and deliver a secret that could prevent nuclear war? Dominic Cooke's The Courier tells the extraordinary true story of Greville Wynne, an unassuming salesman who was recruited by MI6 and the CIA to act as a courier for Soviet intelligence officer Oleg Penkovsky. Benedict Cumberbatch plays Wynne with a masterful blend of ordinary decency and growing terror. Penkovsky, portrayed with aching vulnerability by Merab Nanidze, is a Soviet colonel who fears that Premier Khrushchev is leading the world toward catastrophe. He feeds Wynne secrets about Soviet missile capabilities in Cuba. The film captures the mundane terror of espionage. Wynne must conduct his business meetings while knowing that a single misstep could land him in a Soviet prison. The Cold War backdrop is rendered with meticulous period accuracy. The Courier is a testament to ordinary courage. It proves that heroes do not always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear suits and carry briefcases with world-altering secrets. This film is a tight, efficient thriller that respects its audience's intelligence and delivers a powerful emotional payoff. Number 3. The Russia House, 1990. Can a boozy British publisher with a taste for jazz and Russian literature actually fall in love with his Soviet target and blow the biggest intelligence operation of the decade? Fred Schapisi's The Russia House dares to ask that question with a romantic melancholy that sets it apart from every other Cold War thriller. Sean Connery plays Barley Blair, a louche publisher who receives a manuscript containing devastating details about the Soviet nuclear program. He is dispatched to Moscow to verify the source. Michelle Pfeiffer plays Katya Orlova, the beautiful editor who slipped him the manuscript. Instead of spying on her, Blair falls desperately in love. The film is based on John le Carré's novel, and it retains his signature moral ambiguity. Connery delivers a performance of unexpected vulnerability. His Blair is a man who has wasted his potential and suddenly finds purpose in love and truth. Pfeiffer matches him with a performance of fierce intelligence and guarded warmth. The CIA and MI6 hover in the background, representing the cynical machinery of intelligence gathering. The film's score blends Russian classical motifs with jazz, reflecting the cultural fusion at the heart of the story. Schapisi directs with an elegant eye, capturing the bleak beauty of Moscow. The Russia House argues that human connection transcends ideological barriers. It is a romance set against the crumbling facade of the Soviet Empire. Number 2. Torn Curtain, 1966. Why would a brilliant American physicist publicly defect to East Germany, only to reveal that he is actually a double agent trapped behind the Iron Curtain with his terrified fiancée? Alfred Hitchcock's Torn Curtain delivers that suspenseful premise with the master's trademark precision and a surprising dose of Cold War realism. Paul Newman stars as Michael Armstrong, a scientist who shocks the world by announcing his defection. Julie Andrews plays his fiancée Sarah, who follows him in disbelief. She eventually learns that Armstrong is on a desperate mission to steal Soviet nuclear secrets. The couple must navigate a hostile East Berlin, filled with suspicious apparatchiks and ruthless secret police. Hitchcock departs from his usual glamorous style, embracing a grittier, more documentary-like aesthetic. Newman is stoic and magnetic. Andrews brings a vulnerability that grounds the high-concept plot. The famous murder scene in a farmhouse is a brutal masterpiece of sustained tension. Hitchcock demonstrates that violence is not elegant, it is messy and desperate. The film also features a standout performance by Wolfgang Keeling as a sinister agent. The Cold War atmosphere is palpable, with every shadow hiding a potential betrayer. Torn Curtain was unfairly overshadowed by Hitchcock's earlier classics, but it deserves re-evaluation as a lean, effective espionage thriller. Number 1. Cold War, 2018. Can a passionate love affair between a musician and his tempestuous muse survive the crushing ideological divides of post-war Europe, or will the Cold War freeze their hearts forever? Pawel Pawlikowski's Cold War answers that question with a breathtaking black-and-white visual poem that spans 15 turbulent years. The film follows Wiktor, a Polish music director, who falls for Zula, a fiery young singer, during a state-sponsored folk ensemble. Their romance is volatile and destructive. They flee to Paris only to find that capitalism offers no solace. The Cold War is the silent antagonist in every frame. The border crossings and bureaucratic nightmares mirror the emotional distance that grows between them. Pawlikowski based the story on his own parents, adding a painful authenticity. Tomasz Kot and Joanna Kulig deliver performances of raw, elemental power. Their chemistry is electric and devastating. The cinematography by Łukasz Żal is nothing short of extraordinary. The stark, monochrome images evoke the moral absolutism of the era. The jazz-infused score adds a layer of melancholic beauty. The film is a meditation on exile and identity. Victor and Zula cannot find peace in the East or the West. They are trapped between ideologies, and their love becomes a battlefield. The final scene is an act of transcendent self-destruction. Cold War is a masterpiece of visual storytelling.